Welcome to the Business Transformation Pitch. I am Greg, the CX goalkeeper, bringing you conversations where transformation, leadership, and customer experience meet to create real impact. Did you know 80% of regular listeners haven't subscribed yet? If you enjoy the show, support us by hitting the subscribe button. I promise we will keep raising the bar with the guests, ideas, and strategies that really matter to you. Because in business, just like in football, this conversation could be the game changer. I am Greg's AI-based assistant. In this episode, live from the Conference Lead 26 in Zurich, Greg had a conversation with Fabian Ringwald where they discussed about leadership and personal limits. Fabian shared insight from his experiences as an ultra runner and how these extreme challenges translate into valuable leadership lessons. They also explored the importance of psychological safety in teams and how leaders can foster an environment where limitations are openly discussed and managed. Enjoy the discussion. Welcome to Leads 26 Live. We are in Zurich and today together with Fabian Ringwald. Hi Fabian, how are you?
Hi Gregory, I'm fine. It's a pleasure being here today.
That's great. Perhaps let's really kick off this discussion to learn a bit more about you. And I have three questions. First of all, what's your daily job when you are not at such a conference?
My daily job is being the CIO of a health insurance company in Switzerland. And we pride ourselves with having the most satisfied customers of the industry. And it's a pleasure and honor being able to contribute to that.
Thank you very much. And what's your role at Lead 26?
At Lead 26, I'm a board member and I am helping to shape the conference content-wise, which topics we bring, which speakers we select, and help then the speakers to deliver whatever their story is on stage.
Thank you. And in the pre-discussion, you mentioned that you are an ultra runner, running more than 100 kilometers. It's quite long.
Yes, that is true. I like ultra trails. This is the long runs in the mountains. And, 100 kilometers and a bit more sounds terrifying. I'm totally with you. But it's not a terrifying number when you look at that. What's the real challenge is the altitude, the gain. So this is 6,000 and more meters in altitude up and down, included in a run over 100 and plus kilometers. That really keeps you, thinking while doing it. It takes some time. Yeah, that's something I enjoy when I'm not being at work.
Thank you. And now we know a bit better Fabian Ringwald, today's top player. And now let's really kick off and perhaps without starting what we said last. Running 100 kilometers, 6,000 meters difference of altitude, you need to have a strong leadership with yourself.
Yes. And this is probably the key takeaway from something like that. You learn a lot about yourself when you're doing these long runs. We're talking more than 20 hours being on your feet and running through beautiful landscapes night and day. Night is more challenging than day. And if you're not able to keep yourself known in what your limits are and what the risks are that you can take and what you can endure and what not, this gets pretty difficult, yeah.
You are speaking about limits, and then let's discuss about limits and leadership.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts about that?
Every leader has limits. And I think the initial impulse is that we hide these limitations, especially in front of our colleagues and the teams that we work with. And I personally believe that this is not very well invested energy, because the people that work closest with you, they know your limits, probably better than you know it yourself. There's lots to gain from a leadership perspective in addressing your limits proactively and openly, discuss it with your team even. Learn, therefore, more about yourself and about the perception of your limitations. Some are real, some are only in your head, and others you'll be very surprised because you haven't seen them. And the reflection with your team helps shaping first a high-performance team. It's one building block that you have that level of self-reflection. And second, profoundly, it opens up the potential of your team, helping you to be better and filling the gaps that you in your own leadership are, having because of your limitations. If that makes sense. That was a long and complicated answer.
It totally makes sense. And I can refer quite a lot to football because you have the team need to play together. You have a lot of different team players with different characters, with different skills, and you need to put them and merge them the better way to win the game. But basically, what you're touching, from my point of view, it's something extremely important. It's the psychological side of the things from a leader and from the team. Could you please elaborate a bit on that? Because I know that you are really interested in this topic.
Psychological safety is probably the one aspect that, in my opinion, differentiates a good leader from a great leader. So that means, first of all, being yourself comfortable and make sure you are enjoying the safety within your team. And secondly, enabling your team to open up likewise, and in an environment where limitations can be shared and, well, mitigations can be discussed without diminishing the potential or the capabilities of the individual.
I think this is the dream of every team and every leader to achieve that. You are very experienced. You're a thought leader in this field. What are your suggestions for the audience to share, and perhaps also the learning from today that you want to share?
I think with everything, it is start small, tiny steps. Don't open up with your biggest fear or your biggest limitation that you think about yourself. Pick something rather small, noteworthy, maybe something that you anticipate your team anyhow knowing. Set an example in opening up that way. Be honest with your team and yourself. Probably more with yourself than your team, because your team already knows all that anyhow. and then take it from there and scale it up gradually. And from today's talks, I'm starting with the keynote from Stefan Sigris, the Alpinist. Don't be afraid to go a step back. When the mountain is too complicated to be climbed, when the soccer field or the football field is too rough to be played, or when the ultra trail seems to be too muddy to be conquered, make a step back, come back another time. Come back and make sure you're mentally prepared to be then even stronger, but not in a way that you have to succeed no matter what. So this is where it gets a bit dangerous with the risks. The second or even third attempt, we often have the feeling, oh, now it has to work. No, it hasn't. It's the same level of safety, respect for the topic, for the situation, for whatever that you have to apply like for the first time. Stepping back, starting again, trying again. It's probably the hardest you can do in a leadership position, but it's the one thing that keeps you growing endlessly if you expose yourself to that.
And that's so cool. And I had the pleasure to discuss with Stefan Sigris this morning. And it was incredible what he shared. But now we are throughout the day, and I think you joined several discussions, several talks. What are the main topics, let's say 1, 2, 3 topics that really stand out this year from Read 26?
What I experienced this year, what maybe stands out a bit, is that the speakers are all speaking from their own experience. It's not textbook models that, where you could basically read the story in a 101 on leadership or 101 on transformational topics. Now, it is how they lived through the transformation and what recipes they identified and applied in their situation. For example, Stephen from AdCubum, who was part of the transformational journey of several companies, and he distilled his knowledge into a few concepts, and having it that clear looking back helps the audience maybe to take something like this into the individual future when situations like that have to be conquered by them. Or Christoph with the AI topic. He didn't start up with a fancy PowerPoint slide explaining that Gen AI is taking over the world. No, he told us what not to do, what didn't work, and by building on that, what is going to work. And that was delivered with such a level of authenticity because he lives what he talks. That was very inspiring for me, and I was very impressed.
Thank you. But now I would like to learn a bit more from your experience. I had the opportunity to follow you. I listened to one of your presentation related to AI and applying AI in company. What's your experience with AI? It's really the solution for everything, or?
The solution for everything? The answer is clearly no. But it has potential for many things. And I think this is like with every new technology, with every new trend, we need to identify the potential applications, fields of application, and go from there. So if we, for example, if you wanted to apply generative AI in an environment where you have to be 100% deterministic, so you have to being able to replicating the outcome every time you run the same question, then generative AI is most likely the wrong tool. But if you're working in an area where that is not needed, so it's not 100% safety environment, or it's not 100% regulated environment, I think then you have huge potentials. In medical technology, for example, the identification of anomalies on MRI pictures or CT scan pictures, AI can help tremendously. It is not so good in giving you actual medical advice in a conversation like we would have with our doctors and medical specialists. Can lead there to difficult misinterpretations, because Gen AI in the essence is a statistical tool and not aware in a classical sense of its context.
I think what you're sharing is so important. And I was working for 4 years in an hospital, and I really saw this application that AI can really be the game changer, but also in other cases that it's not working at all, as you are sharing. For you as a leader, do you have a big team, a big department working with you, working for you, and driving this topic? How are you learning about all these new solutions? Because every day, 10 new tools pop up in the market about AI. Everybody comes and says, that's the solution.
Every day, 10 new solutions pop up, and every of them is convinced, or the inventors of them are convinced that this is the new big thing. The sad but hard truth is most likely they are not. How to identify the ones that are staying out? Well, in our context, working in a regulated environment, we have identified for us a smart, fast follower strategy. So we did experiments like everybody else. We worked together with startups. We tried to be ahead of the curve just to figure out we are not a tech company. No surprise as an insurance. We have an affinity for technology, but we are not per se creators of technology. So what does that mean? That means when we build something from the scratch for ourselves, we are ending up in something that I call the Bermuda Triangle of CapEx, of capital expenditure. We might succeed in building something that works very well, but most likely, if that happens, we are getting overtaken by companies that specialize in these kind of solutions. We might even be faster in the beginning, like these companies, but at some point they are taking over and their solutions are better than what we are building ourselves. And then we're sitting on a big load of lifecycle costs and maintaining our own product, a solution or whatever that is not superior to what we could buy in the market. So our smart fast follower strategy is actually, in many of these cases, wait and see for a moment. And if you have the product lifecycle in mind, so we're not in the first group, we're not the before that, so we're not the inventors, yeah. So we are the fast followers, and the smart part is where to apply. So what we're looking for is standardized solutions that are as integrated as possible in our systems and as enterprise ready as possible, yet at a very early stage in an area where we can benefit the most. So it limits quite a lot the potential of what we select and take in. On one hand, on the other hand, it allows us to focus. And focusing on something that we identify as this is going to bring us value and is already enterprise ready gives us in the longer run, hopefully a better cost benefit, but also better results. And better results is something that we want for our customers.
That's so important, focusing on customer. Customer have also big expectation. And as you are mentioning, fast follower in a smart way. That sounds like organizational agility. How can you ensure that you keep throughout the complete journey and the complete organization agility of mindset?
Yeah, very difficult question. And I would lie if I'd say we are already there. So this is the day-to-day struggle, making that leadership principle stick. You have to go a two-way street, I'd say. First of all, top down. make sure your board of non-executive directors are following the trend, because they get approached every day with one or other AI gimmick, and they get provocatively asked if their companies that they are representing are falling behind the curve because they're not adapting it yet. So make sure that they understand that strategy and make them part of developing and shaping that strategy top down. Then peers in the executive boards, of course, need to be on board. And the second perspective that is needed is then the one bottom up. So make sure that your company and the people in the company through all levels understand how to judge the ability of an AI tool or the value that it brings. And that is, well, quite simple. You start, again, with tiny steps. Make ChatGPT available or something like that. Make an LLM available where people can experiment with their daily emails, with their daily communication, with their PowerPoint slides, and with their texts that they are writing, and build from there. Make sure that they are experiencing what a generative AI element can bring to them and their daily work, and make them very aware of what's not working. And let them figure out for themselves and experience, because through experience we learn much more as individuals than by a theoretical layout. And that is also true for companies as a system.
Thank you very much for your insight. I would have thousands of additional questions, but taking care of your time and the keynote, the final keynote that is starting, we are now at the end of the game. Thank you, Fabian, for your time. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please spread the word. It really helps. And remember, 80% of regular listeners haven't subscribed yet. If you enjoyed the show, the easiest way to support us is by hitting that subscribe button. I promise we will keep raising the bar with the guests, ideas, and strategies that matter most to you. Until next time, never forget, we are not in B2B or B2C, we are in H2H, human-to-human environment. Thank you.